Our next and final speaker of the day is, we'll see if I can pronounce this correctly, Ashley Ushiro Simon. Very good. Who is an assistant professor of clinical occupational therapy at the University of Southern California Occupational Therapy Faculty Practice. She helps people with chronic conditions change their lifestyles to better manage their symptoms. Ms. Simon.
Thank you. Okay, while my PowerPoint is coming up, can all of you troopers out there that are still here and kicking it with me just stand up and stretch? Because I'm sure that you've maybe dozed off at least once or twice in the past hour, and I feel terrible about that. Stretch your arms out. Go to the side. Don't do this if you have poor balance. Go to the other side. Get your chest cavity open a little bit. Lace your fingers together. Take a deep breath. Let it out. Maybe get some blood flow, and then sit back down. So, I work at USC's Occupational Therapy Faculty Practice. Does anybody know what occupational therapists do? Have you ever interacted with anyone? Yeah? Great. Okay. So just to recap, if people are not as familiar, occupational therapists look at how people occupy their time. So we're not job therapists necessarily. What we do is we define occupations as any meaningful activity that you engage in throughout your day, things that you need and want to do. And what we do is we help people engage in things that they need and want to do but can't do or aren't doing as well as they would like. So our goal is to get you from point A to point B in whatever means that we can. And at USC, our faculty practice specializes in lifestyle redesign, which is essentially how to change your lifestyle to better your health condition. So, ironically, my topic is on fatigue, which I'm sure you're all experiencing. So I think that what you'll find is the lifestyle strategies here are, yes, helpful for managing fatigue, but they are also just helpful in general. So I hope that you find maybe at least one or two nuggets that you take home. Okay, so we went over what occupational therapy is. My favorite new thing about OT is OT Rex. You know how T-Rex has really short little arms? If you give him reachers, all of a sudden he can reach everything. That's like a great little tidbit of OT. So I don't think I have to explain this to you guys, but the whole concept of energy and fatigue is very complex, right? You have a bunch of different factors that contribute or take away from your energy levels. So there's physical factors, there's emotional factors, there's cognitive factors, like if you do a lot of thinking but you've just sat all day, you end up tired, right? And then there's also spiritual factors sometimes. So amidst all of this is managing whatever condition you have. So I put pain here, but it really could be anything, because managing any kind of chronic condition like neuropathy is extremely tiring, and it takes energy out of all four of those categories, right? So the good news about this is that you have an opportunity, or you have many opportunities, to impact your energy level and impact your fatigue levels at multiple different points. You could do something to manage your fatigue physically. You could do something to manage your fatigue cognitively, emotionally, spiritually. You have many points of intervention, right? And a lot of these are medication-based, but a lot of them are just lifestyle-based, things that you can do yourself. So here are the different factors that we're about to go through, and I'm gonna kind of blow through these pretty quickly, so if you have questions at the end, or I can stick around afterwards, I'd be happy to answer all of these questions. But we'll go through each one of these. So the first principle of fatigue management is, how do you conserve energy? Because what we want to think about is energy as a finite resource, right? It's not infinite, I wish, but it's not. The second thing we'll talk about is prioritizing your activities and then knowing your limits, which is important. So This is a metaphor I created, and it's based off of the spoon theory. Has anybody heard of the spoon theory? Yeah, it's a great theory. So here is my little theory that I made up. Your energy that you wake up with, it's kind of like a pitcher of water. The pitcher is how much potential energy you could wake up with every day, right? If you wake up and that pitcher is full, that's a great day. If you wake up and that pitcher is half full, that's not such a good day, and you have to learn how to divvy things up. Every single activity that you do is a glass, maybe of different sizes. So going food shopping might be a big glass, taking a shower might be a big glass, maybe prepping a simple meal might be a smaller glass, right? And you've got to decide how you're going to prioritize how you fill up those glasses. And you also have to decide how much water you're going to pour into each glass, because you don't have to fill every single glass up. So, because I love PowerPoint a lot, here's my example. One day I wake up, these are my 4 priorities in order. I have already decided playing with my grandkids, I don't have grandkids, playing with my grandkids is gonna be my first priority, gardening is gonna be my second, self-care tasks is gonna be my third, and then whatever, housework comes last, right? I wake up and my pitcher is full. This is a good day. So I say, fantastic, I am going to fill up my cup that is first. I'm going to maybe do halfway in terms of gardening. So instead of mowing the lawn and trimming the hedges, I'll just mow the lawn. Self-care, maybe instead of showering and washing my hair, bald people don't necessarily have this problem, but washing your hair takes a lot of energy. Maybe I just take a quick in and out kind of shower and save some energy that way. And then maybe I just put a little bit of work into my housework, right? I just wipe the counters and that's it. On my second day though, instead of waking up with a full pitcher of water, I only wake up with half. So now I have to really, really figure out how I'm gonna dole out my energy, right? So you see how my priorities have changed since maybe I didn't take the full shower the day before, maybe self-care is my primary goal here. So now I say, okay, I need to pour more energy into self-care. I still wanna be able to play with my grandkids, so I'll fill that halfway up. Grocery shopping, which is now on my list, maybe I order things online and have them delivered to me because honestly, I don't have the energy to go to the store. And then guess what, housework? Too bad, that's okay. So this is the concept of energy conservation, is energy is finite and you must prioritize and you must delegate your energy according to your own priorities and according to what you think is gonna be beneficial for you and for your family. So here are some questions to ask yourself. What's essential and what can't be avoided? What's realistic to expect of yourself? And if anyone is type A like I am, that's usually inaccurate of an estimation. And what can you eliminate or delegate? If you can just, instead of having 10 cups, you can just take 1 cup out because someone else can do it, like hire a house cleaner or something, that's a fantastic way of going about it. So good questions to ask yourself. Okay, the second thing here is you have to pace yourself, right? You can't just go, and then drop dead and be out of commission for 2 or 3 days, because that's not necessarily a great thing for your body, and it's also not gonna give you the most productivity throughout the day. So here are the kind of concepts of activity pacing. You've got large-scale activity pacing, which is like on a weekly, daily, or even hourly basis. You plan things out, or you try to plan things out to have periods of activeness and periods of rest, right? So maybe this small little tiny example that you probably can't read here, let's say I'm throwing a dinner party. On Sunday, I go food shopping and I do a little bit of food prep and then I rest. On Monday, I put the roast in the oven and then I have dinner with my friends. And then on Tuesday, I rest first and then I clean the kitchen, right? So what you're doing is you're essentially spreading out your activity throughout multiple days. The example on the right is how to spread out your activities and how to take frequent breaks throughout the day. So what you need to do is most people need to schedule in their breaks because otherwise they won't take them. So you block off time and you gotta give yourself a little cue, a little kick here and there to be like, remember to take your break. iPhone watches are a fantastic way of getting that done because they buzz you every like 30 minutes or hour or however long you want them to. So You can use technology to cue you as well. Activity pacing also happens on a small scale basis. So this is sort of like a moment-to-moment kind of thing. What you do is you frequently check in with yourself, meaning you analyze the state of your body on a frequent basis. And you decide whether or not you can continue the activity or you need to take a break. And if you need to take a break, you step back, try to return to baseline, rest a little bit, and then you continue on with your activity. And the idea of both large and small scale pacing is over time, you get more done. And instead of having high periods of activity with a long, low rest period afterwards, you're actually more productive over time, which I can tell you is totally true. In terms of the next concepts, you want to be able, in terms of managing fatigue and energy, if you can, change up your tools and change up your environment because they have a lot to do with how you're spending energy. And then change your body too. Practice good posture. And every time I say that, everyone always like scoots up in their chair and starts getting better posture magically. So equipment, anytime you can use equipment that's gonna do the work for you, that will save you energy, do it. So I like to use things, you know, like if you have a dishwasher, use it. If you have electric can openers, instead of cranking them, use it. Food processors are great. This chopper, fantastic. It takes a lot of downward force, but if you can do that, it actually saves you a lot of repetitive motion energy. If you can, use lightweight utensils and knives with large built-up handles, and even I even have a lot of people who just go to the dollar store and buy plastic plates because they're so much lighter to use and there's no risk of breaking them if you drop them. So change up the utensils and the things that you commonly use, glasses in your kitchen, all of that stuff. The reason why built-up handles are here is because the smaller you grip, the more force you exert. So if you have a larger handle, all of a sudden, you're not exerting as much force, aka you're saving energy. Use of serrated knives is always good because they start cutting things for you. Reachers like my OT Rex, if you are always straining or bending to reach things up high and down low, you're essentially wasting energy. So use reachers. And other long-handled tools like long-handled shoe horns and all sorts of good things. The other thing about equipment is if you need to move something, roll it. Because rolling is always going to be much easier. So for instance, people use kitchen carts all the time. They go to the fridge, they stack everything they need on the cart, then they roll it to the dining table and they sit down and prep their meal. Then they roll everything back when everything's prepped and then they cook. It's much better than going back and forth between the fridge and then the counter and then standing and all this stuff, right? So use a kitchen cart if you can. Laundry carts, same thing. Instead of hiking that big bag of laundry or that big basket or whatever, roll it if you can. Grocery baskets are more common. And then there's also countertop sliders. Like if you have a long countertop that goes from the stove to the sink per se, and you want to dump a big pot of water or something, instead of carrying it the whole way, roll it or slide it. You can even just put it on a towel and just slide it across the counter. Much easier than lifting. And here's the idea about changing the environment. So lighting is a big deal. The darker it is, a lot of the times if you can't see, you're expending extraneous energy just to be able to find what you're doing. Make sure it's well ventilated, make sure the temperature is right, the noise levels are right. Even colors sometimes can affect your energy level, right? Bright, happy colors like these chandeliers versus like dark kind of muted colors. So those can sometimes pick up your energy. And then clothing. If you are hot all the time, you're spending energy, or your body is spending energy trying to regulate its temperature. So make sure that you're cool but not cold. And then change the type of shoes that you're wearing because those can impact your energy expenditure too. And here's the thing about posture. So I don't really know anyone whose home computer looks like that, with like the keyboard tray and all these fancy things going on. But essentially, if you can work well supported in a chair with really good posture, you're gonna be spending less energy than if you're hunched over. Anytime you hold a sustained awkward position or anytime you repetitively do that position, you're spending extraneous energy. So Reduce awkward, sustained, or repetitive positions. Try to acquire or adjust equipment if you need to. I know a lot of people who put a pillow on their lap with their keyboard on top because relaxing their shoulders saves them tons of energy. Strengthen your postural muscles. So this has to do with exercise, which we'll talk in a sec. And then alternate between sitting, standing, and walking if you can, because like I'm sure you've realized by now, prolonged sitting is a great way of draining your energy and making your muscles tired. Okay, here's the other things about practicing good posture and using good body mechanics. If you're going to bend and lift, try to use large muscle groups. I'm sure we've all heard the lift with your knees, not with your back, right? We've all heard that before. Your back has a lot of tiny little muscles, and your legs have a lot of big, large muscles. So if you use your thighs and your glutes and everything like that instead of your back, you're saving energy, even though it might feel like a squat exercise. In terms of, in terms of storage, you see how she's reaching on the right? Anytime you have frequently used items, you want to put those basically between the top of your head to your waist. Those are where your frequently used items should be because that's where it takes the least amount of energy to grab something. If things are above your head or if things are below your waist, that means you're spending energy. And if you are always going for the pot that's stored in the cabinets underneath the sink, that's a lot of energy that you're kind of spending. Okay, planning ahead and being organized. I am a big fan of prioritization, like we talked about before, spreading out your harder tasks. Considering the time of day and your natural energy levels is important. If you are not a morning person, don't schedule yourself for a lot of activity in the morning. And then, like I said before, be realistic. Okay. Here's kind of what I talked about before. Eliminating multiple trips, storing things at eye or chest level, and having a good system of organization is also a good way to save energy. I'm sure that you've all searched for papers that you can't find and spent a ton of energy searching for that one paper that you need, versus if you had a good organizational system to begin with, you wouldn't have to spend that energy. And then here are some lifestyle factors that absolutely play a role, and I'm glad that we had a talk from a nutritionist before because diet is something that I don't cover here. So obviously you can get a lot of good energy from your diet, right? But you can also get a lot of energy from doing these things, right? So, sleep. Sleep can impact a lot of things. I like to call this the great regulator. You know what I mean? If this was like Lord of the Rings or something, this would be the one thing. So there's a cycle between sleep and pain. If you have more pain, you're not going to sleep as well. If you don't sleep as well, you're going to have more pain, right? And then it kind of goes in a cycle like this. So what we want in terms of sleep is we want better quality sleep, right? So a lot of the things that I'll do with my clients are I'll help them try to find as neutral a position as possible, meaning the position that reduces strain the most on muscles and joints. I'll help people create a wind down routine before bedtime. Your body will respond to routine. So if you do the same thing to wind down before bed, all of a sudden it knows what comes next, right? In terms of decreasing stimulation, who here looks at their phone right before they go to bed? Everybody should be raising their hands. I feel like most people do this, right? It's like you set your alarm, you maybe play a game, you look on Facebook, and then all of a sudden your eyes are closed. So we want to decrease stimulation, which means no work emails, nothing that really revs you up. Don't read 50 Shades of Grey before bedtime. That's actually not a good idea. So really decreasing stimulation is a good idea. Keep a very regular sleep and wake cycle so that your circadian rhythm knows exactly what you want it to do and when. If you wake up and go to bed at wonky times every single day, your body's not going to know what to expect from you. If you can, aim for 7 to 9 hours a night, even though that sounds like it would be a fantastic idea. 7 is really a marker that even adults need to meet, so try to aim for 7. And then teach yourself relaxation techniques. YouTube is a fantastic resource for relaxation techniques, guided breathing and guided meditation and all these visualizations and, you know, feel your toes in the sand or picture yourself on the mountain or whatever it might be that like revs your engine. Use relaxation techniques to help you fall asleep and then to help you fall back asleep if you wake up. Because all we want to do is we want to prime your body for sleep. Oh no. There we go. All we want to do is prime your body for sleep, and what that means is putting your body into a very relaxed state so that when you knock off, you've got good quality. That's not me on the bottom right-hand corner, by the way. That's someone else's kid. Okay, exercise. I hope everyone has some semblance of an exercise routine, but if you don't, you definitely want to establish one. There's a lot of benefits for exercise, including better energy, better sleep, like we just talked about, and of course, strength, right? If your muscles are strong, they won't get as tired or as sore quickly. So part of this art of finding an exercise routine is start small. If you don't have an exercise routine already, just start really small. Try to find activities that are the just right balance of challenge versus simplicity for you, and that can look different for everybody, right? But to me, the most important thing is do something that's sustainable. If you absolutely hate walking, don't walk. I can't tell you how many people just try to force themselves into an activity because their friends are doing it or because they heard it was good for them. Just don't do it. Find something that moves your body that you really like. And luckily now there's a ton of different classes and things to do, and now there's meetup.com that basically if you love underwater basket weaving, you can find other underwater basket weavers in your area. So find something that's sustainable, because if you enjoy it, it's much more sustainable. I can tell you that in terms of pain management, aqua therapy, like pool therapy, even just walking in the pool or just doing very light laps is fantastic. And so is yoga, because they're both gentle and they're both very mild, but also really beneficial in terms of health. Okay, and one of the last things I'll talk about is stress management. So who here feels a correlation between their symptoms and stress? Really? Okay, yeah, thank you. Okay, so stress and pain in particular are experienced in the same pathway. They're part of the same sympathetic nervous system, right? So when you get stressed out, your pain's gonna get worse, and if your pain gets worse, your body is inherently feeling more stress. It's the same pathway. So you have to have a daily stress management routine. So this is not like acute stress management, if you get really riled up. This is not necessarily what I'm talking about, although you should definitely do something to manage your stress in those moments. But I'm talking more about chronic stress, because if you are chronically managing a condition, and if you have this underlying level of pain, you also have an underlying level of stress. And so you need to do something about it. Even if it's not experienced up here, it's still being experienced in your body. So the relaxation techniques that we talked about with sleep, same thing applies here. You just want to do them on a regular basis so you can lower your baseline level of stress. If you are a spiritual person, use that spirituality, because that definitely helps. Try to eliminate unhealthy coping strategies, which I know can be hard for us sometimes, like if you are a French fry eater like myself. And try to implement healthy coping strategies. Learn to release your stress or deal with stress, but in a healthy way. And the biggest thing, and the thing that's closest to my heart from being an occupational therapist, is you gotta do things that make you happy. Because if you're constantly doing things that make you unhappy, that is not helping your underlying sympathetic activation level or your stress level. So if you do things that make you happy, you start releasing all these fun chemicals, right? I always feel better after watching my favorite movie or snuggling with my dog or something like that. If you do those things on a regular basis and you make them a priority instead of pushing them by the wayside, right? Which is usually the first thing that happens when we're stressed, is like, I don't have time for snuggles, dog. And then dog goes away. You have to make them a priority because they are part of your self-care routine. So I'm not saying you have to put them on your calendar at work, but you definitely need to do something that makes you happy every single day. Okay, so here's what you can maybe take away from this and the steps that you follow from. The first thing you want to do is you want to make a plan. You have to invest time up front in order to reap the benefits later, right? And you saw, in terms of the schedules that I showed you, blocking off times for breaks, getting equipment that will help you manage energy. You have to plan ahead. So create a plan, write it down, and then share it with somebody, because a plan is okay if only you know about it, but it's so much better if other people know about it, right? Because then there's accountability. If you need to, get like apps or devices, or even look if financial barriers stand in your way, there are some financial resources available. And then, like I said before, make lifestyle changes and self-care a priority, because that's the only way that behavior change is ever gonna kind of make itself known. So, there we go. So if you have any questions, I can take a few now, but I'll also just hang around for a few minutes after we're done. And if you want coaching on some of this stuff, if you want somebody to walk you through it, know that there are people out there who can help you walk through these steps of lifestyle change, because for some people, lifestyle change is easy, but for most of us, changing our behavior that we've done for X number of years, however long you've been alive, is pretty dang hard, and most of the time we need someone to help us go through the steps. So thank you for listening, and I'll take questions if you want.
What do you do when you wake up in the morning and there's no water in your pitcher?
Not even one drop, right? Oh, sorry. The question was, what do you do if you wake up in the morning and there's no water in your pitcher? That's right. So if you are experiencing increased symptomology, or if you have really, really bad fatigue, your coping ability is going to go down, right? Because you don't have the tolerance or the energy to spend on thinking what to do. So that's a good time where you want to be doing very restorative things. So what I like to have people do is I like to have them keep a list of everything that would feel restorative to them next to their bed. Because then on the days where they wake up and they don't have any water in their pitcher, they can turn to that list, and they can, even something as simple as, I can go to the window and take pictures of the trees outside because those make me happy. Or I can, put my phone on speaker and talk to my nephew, or something like that. Those simple little things help to, I wouldn't say they fill your pitcher up, but they certainly help to make the feeling of lack of energy a little bit better. So you do more restorative things versus doing depleting things that are maybe on your to-do list. Yeah.
Do you have occasion to talk with people who have sleep disorders, i.e., all of a sudden in the last 6 months, a year, go from 7 or 8 hours sleep to 13, 11, 12?
Yeah. So
What's behind that if it isn't pain?
So I think that would be an individual answer, because if your sleep habits suddenly change, that's probably an individualized answer. I mean, I know that. Okay. Fantastic. Awesome.
Thank you so much. Great presentation. Really enjoyed that.